Today, we are diving deep into the psychology of influence, specifically through the lens of author Robert Greene. And look, this isn't about cheesy pickup lines or simple charm. We're talking about the art of becoming truly unforgettable. And trust me, it's way more strategic than you probably think.
So, let me ask you this. What actually makes a person stick in your mind long after they're gone? Is it just their looks or some kind of natural charisma? Well, according to Greene, the people who are truly unforgettable, they're masters of a very deliberate, very psychological strategy.
This quote right here, this is the whole game. The real measure of your influence isn't what happens when you're with someone. Nope, it's about whether you're living rent-free in their head when you're apart. Absolutely everything we're about to talk about is designed to achieve this one single goal.
So how do you pull that off? Well, the first big step is to stop thinking about moments and start thinking about narratives. Greene says that truly effective influence means you become the author of a story, a really compelling story, and the other person gets to be the main character.
I mean, let's be honest. Most of our lives are pretty routine, right? Even a little predictable. The real power of this idea is that it offers an escape. It's like an invitation to step out of the everyday grind and into a world that just feels, well, more dramatic, more interesting, more alive.
The psychology behind this is so simple, it's brilliant. We love stories because we crave suspense. We need to know what happens next. So the real power here is in being unpredictable. When you create these moments where someone is genuinely caught off guard, wondering what you're going to do next, you basically force them to turn the page.
Okay, so if seduction is a story, what's the fuel for the plot? What really drives it forward? This brings us to the psychological engine of desire itself. And here's a powerful truth about us humans. We're often driven not by what we can have, but by what feels just out of our reach. You know, there's this weird little quirk in human nature, isn't there? The second something is labeled off-limits or forbidden, a switch just flips in our brain. The rule itself doesn't kill our desire. No way. It actually creates a much more intense version of it.
Oh, it's the classic don't think of a pink elephant problem. The moment I tell you not to, what do? You immediately picture a pink elephant. By creating this sense of prohibition, you're triggering a psychological loop. The very act of trying to push the thought away is precisely what gives it power and makes the desire grow exponentially. So, how does this actually translate into action? I mean, if the goal is to occupy someone's mind, you have to make them feel something, anything. And this leads us to one of the most powerful tactics of all, creating an emotional roller coaster through some very calculated highs and lows. This is the classic strategy. Hot is when you're there, you're fully present, you bring surprises, intense focus, real excitement. But then comes the cold. A sudden withdrawal, a little bit of distance, some ambiguity. This contrast creates confusion, and the first thing they think is, wait, what did I do wrong? And just like that, they're analyzing your every move. Now the key here is that it's not a 50-50 split. The real power comes from being mostly warm and present, say about 70% of the time. But that other 30%, that calculated coldness, that absence, that's what makes the warmth feel like this amazing addictive relief. It creates a powerful craving for your attention. Okay, this might sound a little counterintuitive, but stick with me. The real objective is to break through someone's emotional defenses. Even negative emotions like anger or frustration mean that they're engaged, they're thinking about you, they are invested.
Because indifference is the true enemy of influence. An emotional response, literally any emotional response, gives you a foothold. When someone feels strongly about you, one way or another, you have their undivided attention.
All right, so far these tactics sound pretty calculated, maybe even a little cold. But here's the paradox. One of the most powerful tools of influence isn't strength, it's the strategic appearance of vulnerability. Greene completely reframes what vulnerability means. It's not about being weak at all. In fact, it's about having the intelligence and the confidence to strategically lower your defenses. It's like an invitation. You're consciously letting someone get under your skin, which in turn makes them feel safe enough to let you in.
You know, this taps into some really deep psychological patterns, a lot of which go all the way back to childhood. We all have this latent desire to just let go and surrender to someone else's influence. This can be especially potent for people who always feel the pressure to be in control.
But listen, this isn't about being naive. True, strategic vulnerability also means having the wisdom to know when to pull back from real danger.
Okay, let's pull the lens back for a second, because these principles go way beyond just romance. We're talking about politics, business, social dynamics of all kinds. At its core, this whole thing is a form of subtle, indirect power. If you look at history, this art form was often perfected by people who were denied direct power. Think about women in patriarchal courts and societies. When you can't command or demand something outright, you have to master the art of subtle influence. You have to lure the powerful to your way of thinking so skillfully that they actually believe the idea was theirs to begin with.
And this really highlights the fundamental difference in approach. See, arguing and demanding just creates resistance, but effective influence, that's all about understanding psychology to create desire. It's the difference between pushing someone away and gently pulling them closer.
And this, right here, is why this matters to every single one of us. You don't have to use these tactics to benefit from understanding them. In our crazy, socially complex world, just recognizing when these psychological levers are being pulled on you is your best defense. It makes you a much more aware, much more effective person.
So we'll end on this thought. These dynamics are always at play, whether we're conscious of them or not. The real question to ask yourself is, in the important relationships in your life, are you more often the one doing the seducing or the one being seduced? It's definitely a question worth thinking about.